Kangzoo Water 2. That's the IEM we're going to be looking at in this video. And here's a quick frequency response graph just so you guys could get an idea of how this IEM measures. Good amount of sub bass, a little bit of added mid bass, and the lower mid's pretty clean. Get a good amount of upper mid range, energy in the vocals, and then some treble peaks. So yeah, that's the frequency graph. And these are the IEMs themselves. Just a basic plastic build. The ergonomics on the cable, I didn't find them to be that great, but it's pretty acceptable for this price point. I haven't seen anything that's too great as of recent. I did like the cable on the Truthier gate. I thought it was pretty good. So yeah, let's start talking about the sound quality and the sound profile for these IEMs. So when you first listen to this IEM, you'll immediately catch the treble and the bass. So there's a lot of focus on those regions while this IEM still retains the mid-range. So vocals are still going to sound crisp and bright and have a clear definition to them. So this is like a balanced V-shaped type of IEM. And I'm calling it balanced on purpose because there's just the correct amount of upper mid-range where vocals have a body to them and they don't sound too thin. But I think when vocals start sounding too thin, that's when an IEM becomes more V-shaped. But I never got that with this IEM, whether I was listening to The Weeknd, any female singers like Halsey, Adele. I never found their vocal to get too thin. It remained the focus of the sound, and that's how it should be. The vocals just pop out with good amounts of clarity and detail. So yeah, I wouldn't call this the smoothest IEM, but for me it's not too bright either. The treble sounds pretty linear despite how it grasps. Is it very smooth? No. Certain IEMs can sound smoother, but this doesn't shy away from treble, and it is one of the more prominent things on this IEM just because of how details pop out at you. So compared to the original Water 1 that I reviewed, I do think this IEM has more bass and treble. So you get a little bit more of a rumble in the bass, a little bit more treble air. So yeah, this is the second revision of this. This is going for a more fun type of sound where it emphasizes the frequencies a little bit more on both ends. So yeah, and then in terms of like the treble, whenever I was listening to instruments and classical music like Two Steps from Hell or movie recordings, I thought the treble came across really, really nicely on this. It just had a crisp type of sound up top where everything had a bit of a definition and an edge to the notes without sounding too overbearing. And then yeah, like Soundstage and imaging, I'd say for this price point, I think it does a pretty decent job. Everything has its space in the Soundstage. The vocals don't sound too thin. Everything has a good amount of body. There's a slight bit of warmth in this IEM because This IEM has a little bit of mid bass, but I think it's tastefully done where it doesn't get in the way of the upper frequencies or where the vocals are. And then like air, like above 10K, to me this IEM didn't have the most airy type of sound after 10K. But honestly, it's nothing to complain about for this price point. And then let's go over the resolution and how it fares with some recordings. So when I was listening to Impossible by Two Steps from Hell, and then I was listening to Victory, this IEM did actually a surprisingly decent in the separation department of things. When I'm listening to orchestras and there's multiple people playing multiple instruments, I thought everything was adequate for this price point. It wasn't below average. I'd say maybe it was slightly above average compared to some other things I've heard. It just sounds convincing and a little bit raw, and it emphasizes clarity a bit, which I do kind of like. And then it does present finer details with pretty much ease, but it's not ultra resolving, and I didn't find it to be too lacking in that department. And to my ears, a lot of budget IEMs around this price point, they all have a similar type of detail retrieval. Just because an IEM has more treble, it does not mean it has more detail. Because when I focus on the detail aspect of things, I'm talking about the layering, how well layered a track sounds, not just how sharp the treble sounds. So even if an IEM has less treble and more mid bass, it still could be more resolving. So pretty good on that front. And then a quick comparison to these IEMs to one of my favorite IEMs in this price segment, which I use pretty often, surprisingly, the Truthier Gate. So this IEM to me is just going to be less boosted in the treble. It's going to sound more neutral. To me, and most people who are sensitive to treble, I'm not too sensitive to treble, but the gate is going to be smoother, just less boosted. Same thing with the mid-range. The gate is just going to be more neutral. Vocals aren't going to sound as sharp and edgy because this is going for a neutral and smoother type of tuning. Where on the Warner too, they could be more sharp and edgier, also because there's more treble too. So you get the perception of a boost. And then the bass are pretty comparable. I'd say the Warner too, because of that treble emphasis, the bass could sound a little dry at times. But other than that, that's a quick comparison between the two. So overall, I actually do like these IEMs a lot. I think they're my second favorite IEM in this price segment, other than the Gate. And then compared to the original Warner still to me had this very, very nice mid-range, and the bass was less, and the treble was less on it too. So the original one is more neutral if that's what you're looking for. And then the Warner 2 has more bass and treble emphasis. So I don't think the 2 is a direct upgrade to the 1. It's going to boil down to what you want your IEM to sound like and the type of music you listen to. But you can't ever go wrong with neutral tunings just because they'll usually sound good with most genres and pretty much everything you listen to. So out of 10, I'm going to give this IEM, I think I'll give it an 8 out of 10, which is pretty good. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this quick video, and I'm gonna try to get my hands on the Cranier reference and the binary EP321, because those are two I've been wanting to listen to and some other things. So, yep. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Like, comment, and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.